Stop it. Don't go.
So let us now begin with our second session, which is, I would say, the most interesting session. It's about the IMO, and we'll all know what is IMO and what IMO does, and how India is placed. So the topic today is India at the IMO. Sir, may I request you to please say hello. Can you please take your seats? Hello. Shivangi.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Please take your seats.
Okay.
Thank you. So we are talking about what happens at the IMO and how India is represented at IMO. And we have some of the top people from our industry here who have been visiting IMO. Some of them in this year, some of them past year, some of them over a period of many years. So to start with, I would like to invite Captain Manish Kumar. Please come on the desk. Nautical Surveyor and Deputy Director General of Shipping, Technical. So please be seated. Captain Manish Kumar is a seasoned maritime professional with over 16 years of sea experience at sea, specializing in gas carriers. He has had the privilege of commanding state-of-the-art LNG vessels, showcasing its expertise in navigation and managing those sophisticated vessels before transitioning from seafaring career to shore career. Captain Kumar holds a MBA in operations and postgraduate diploma in shipping and logistics, which have equipped him with a robust understanding of the shipping industry's operational and strategic dimensions. His onshore experience includes working as a superintendent for LPG and LNG ships, where he played a critical role in ensuring the smooth operation and compliance of these specialized vessels. Since joining the DG Shipping in February 2021, Captain Kumar has been serving as a nautical surveyor, where he handles key responsibilities including marine insurance, safe manning, cargo issues, dispensation requests, and matters related to seafarers. His extensive maritime knowledge and leadership skills continue to contribute significantly to enhancing the safety and efficiency of the shipping industry. So that's Captain Manish Kumar. Next we have Captain Philip Mathews. Captain Philip, can you please come on the desk? With over 40 years of experience in the shipping industry, he has worked for the Shipping Corporation of India for 20 years, including, he was a principal of the neighboring Maritime Training Institute, SCI. He has also served as a master, that is a chairman of CMMI in the past. So he is our ex-master of CMMI. And he has been a trustee on the Board of Examination for Seafarers Trust for, I think, 4 years. Was that 4 years? Many years. Many years. Captain Mathews is the director at the Seven Islands Maritime Training Institute and is responsible for managing the recruitment of fleet personnel for Seven Islands Shipping. In his previous roles, he has been a senior vice president, fleet personnel at Seven Islands Shipping. Before that, senior vice president at SCI. Before, he's been a warden at the Company of Mastermans of India. And of course, like I mentioned, he was a master of CMMI. So welcome, Captain Philip Mathews. Then we have Mr. Rajeev Nair. A marine engineer with 36 years of experience in the shipping industry, commencing in 1988 when he graduated from DMT, Calcutta. He started one very senior, experienced marine engineer for you. You can take some suggestion and advice from him. He started his career with the Great Eastern Shipping Company, Mumbai, and rose to the rank of chief engineer with them. And then in 1995, He transitioned to the shore operations, taking on the role of technical manager with oil tankers. In the year 2000, he moved to SR Shipping. During his tenure in SR, Rajeev played a pivotal role in SR Shipping's LNG project. On joining, and thereafter he moved through various roles and responsibilities in SR Shipping. Rajeev held key positions such as head of technical tankers and head S&P new buildings, and also head of QNS. As a head S&P, that is new buildings, he was involved in various projects involving asset acquisitions and asset disposal as well. These spanned a diverse range of vessels consisting of tugboats, dredgers, offshore units, and even SBM. Till his separation from SR in the year 2020, as the CEO of OGD Services Limited, the erstwhile SR Oilfield Services, he continued to be involved in the group's floating assets S&P activity. Starting from 2021, Rajeev has been actively engaged as an independent maritime consultant, allocating his focused efforts to professional endeavors and related activities. Presently, he is the president of the Institute of Marine Engineers India, and as a consultant focuses on techno-commercial evaluation of projects. So friends, that's Rajeev. Welcome, sir. After this, we have Captain Deboo, Deboo, Captain Kersi Deboo. Please join us on the desk. A Master Mariner, member of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, UK, Associate of the Indian Institute of Insurance, and Associate of the Chartered Institute of Insurance. After sailing for 17 years on various types of ships, in both Indian and foreign flag ships, he specialized in ice navigation and voyages through the North Atlantic in the winter season. He has done a voyage in the Arctic and sailed through Northwest Passage. He has also developed some training programs for ice navigation. That's right, Captain Deboo? So, came ashore in 1995 and set up the Anglo-Eastern Maritime Training Center. I think all of you, even the back, people at the back, you have heard of Anglo-Eastern Maritime Training Center? Yeah, well-known training center. He is the one who set it up and is still associated with it. Currently, he is the director and principal of the Anglo-Eastern Training Center, and he has the responsibility of developing and monitoring training carried out as various Anglo-Eastern training centers in India, Europe, as well as Philippines. He is the director of Anglo-Eastern Maritime Academy, which conducts pre-sea training and a turnaround of 480 cadets per year. Captain Deboo has been actively involved in many maritime forums. Some of them are like he is a member of the Indian delegation to the International Maritime Organization. As I mentioned, he's been visiting to attend his IMO meetings for quite some time now. He looks after the human element, the training and watchkeeping, HTW, subcommittee meetings over the last 2 decades, and has chaired the drafting group of validation for IMO model training courses, and even in the last 7 IMO subcommittee meetings. Leader of the team which has developed several IMO model courses which have been subsequently validated at the IMO. Member of the Standing Committee of Training on the Director General of Shipping, Mumbai. He has contributed to the development of course guidelines for mandatory DG approved courses. Member of the Academic and Executive Council of the Indian Maritime University. Member of the professional bodies such as CMMI, Nautical Institute, ICS, and Global Med. In 2015, 5th of April 2014, on the National Maritime Day, he was awarded the prestigious National Maritime Day Award for outstanding contribution to maritime education and training at the hands of Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Shipping, Government of India. So that's Captain Deboo for you. So this is the panel which is going to talk about IMO, what has happened there. They have been there themselves. They'll be giving you a small talk presentation about what they do. And to moderate this session, we have none other than Captain Ashok Mahapatra. A tall figure, I don't mean tall by height, but height as well. Retired as a director of the Maritime Safety Division at the IMO. So he was the director at the IMO. Captain Ashok Mahapatra joined Scindia as a cadet in 1973 and rose to the rank of the chief officer in 1977. He became a master with South India Shipping Corporation in 1982. Thereafter, he remained in command for ongoing ships until 1986. When he joined as a nautical surveyor with Government of India in 1994 and was promoted as a deputy nautical advisor to the Government of India. He joined the IMO's SCCW and Human Element section as a technical officer in the year 1998. In 2003, he took over as the head of Maritime Training and Human Element section in the Maritime Safety Division. As of 1st Jan 2012, he was appointed as Senior Deputy Director, Subdivision for Operational Safety, Human Element and Maritime Safety Division at the IMO. And on 1st October 2015, he took over as a Director, Maritime Safety Division. So friends, that's Captain Mahapatra, a very tall figure. Sir, now to hand over to you. You can take over the proceeds. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Capt, for introducing all of us. It saves me a little bit talk on this. Ideally, I would like this to be more of an interactive session rather than making presentations from my side. I'd like to clarify what the IMO does and how it works after my fellow panelists have made their presentation. So, to make it as productive, I don't want to go into a monologue. Can I ask Manish to start his... Manish, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll be talking about India at IMO. That is the theme of this session. So here I present our first presentation. We will be discussing about our engagement as Directorate General of Shipping at IMO level. So just for the sake of understanding, as we all are aware of, IMO is a specialized body of United Nations. So what it deals about? It deals about the global standards setting for safe and sustainable international shipping. It has assembly, it has a council, 5 main committees, and 7 subcommittees, and numerous intersectional working groups. What are the aim? The aim is to have a safe, secure and sustainable shipping that includes navigation, construction of equipment, manning, dangerous goods, involvement, marine casualty, salvage and the communication part. It also includes the port related aspects such as the port reception facilities and anti-fouling, ballast water management and pollution prevention responses. It also talks about the recycling and the source of pollution. These are the instruments that India has party to. It includes, these are the pillars, in fact we can say, the STCW that will be discussed at a greater length with my fellow panelists. They will be presenting STW and intersection working group on training and education, then SOLAS, and they will be about 2 ILO convention also, that talks about MLC and DSID. These are the 2 ILO conventions as well, other than the IMO convention. This is a brief structure, like how it works out. There are main technical groups, these are the committees, supported by subcommittees, which is STW, which talks about the human element training and watchkeeping. Then the implementation of IMO instruments, like it ensures that how the member states are implementing the convention who they are party to in their domestic legislation. So that is the instrument to check. Then there are navigation, communication, search and rescue, pollution related, ship designing and carriage of cargo. Then why do we need India? India has a 7,500 plus kilometer coastline. We have 12 major ports. Another one is coming up. We had covered in the morning session about the Warden port. And we have more than 200 plus non-major ports. And these are our, if we have to take in a screenshot in a one screen, if I have to tell, these are the interest. Why we need to be more active and more involving in IMO. We have pipeline, we have major ports, minor ports, and about 2.8 to 3 lakhs active seafarers. We are among the largest seafarer supplying nation at a global shipping. These are some numbers. There is a capacity which has been augmented during the past few years. I would like to highlight that the major ports capacity, then there is an increase in seafarers involvement, then little bit increment of the tourism also. Yes, this is how the IMO functions. It will be covered in detail by other panelists also. So how do we prepare it? We get a what do you call that, IMO calendar, IMO schedule, and based upon that we have a nomination from at India level that includes not only DG shipping but other stakeholders also, like Indian Coast Guard and Indian National Ship Owner Association, classification societies and other stakeholders. So their participations are prepared through the calendar, and then the work starts. They prepare the documents, they submit it, then they have a discussion, rounds of discussions before they make a submission, and then after getting approval from the ministry or the competent authority, it is submitted. And sometimes if they are not submitting paper, we have interest where the other nations have submitted papers, there we may have to make our intervention. So that also has to be prepared, scrutinized, and get it approved from the ministry. These are the key effective presentations that require domain knowledge, expertise. Like everybody or one institute may not be having an entire expertise with them. So when we have to handle at an India level, we have to take all together. Whoever is an expert into that field, like suppose for the classification society, they will be having expertise in shipbuilding, construction, and naval art point of view. There will be institutes, there are shipping companies, they will be having their issues with relate to the seafarers concerns. So these are the topics that we have to think before we make our presentations, we make our papers ready. So that requires strategy, monitoring and planning, interconnectedness, preparedness between the different stakeholders, and we have a consistency, proactive approach, and a systematic encouragement. This is the views of IMO. There we have a meetings. All the nations, or not all, if not all, many nations have their representative there. India is permanently represented by our High Commission there. But other than High Commission, many countries have their permanent representative at IMO, not at UK but at IMO. So India is also planning to have their representations through JPO and SPO, the junior officers and the senior officers. They will be representing. It is a proposal that we should have, since we have interest, so we should have a permanent representation at IMO level. When we prepare the documents, we have to prepare, then we discuss it, we make a presentation, we call stakeholders for their inputs, and then we follow it up. Strategic engagement. Why do we need strategic engagement? We have our Maritime India Vision 2030 document. Thereafter, we have Amrit Vision document 2047. The government of India envisaged augment shipping. We will be surprised to know that we have such a huge coast. There are so much of cargo operation is going on, but when we see in terms of percentage by Indian shipping, it's quite less. Most of the foreign flag vessels are employed on a coastal trading also. So we need to have a better approach so that we can at least cover our own coast first. We have to have our own vessels, own tonnage, taking our cargo from one port to another port, at least within the India. These are the documents which is prepared, which includes agenda points, entire schedule of the year, where for each meeting, starting from the council assembly meeting to a subcommittee or an intersection working group, the agenda points, the tentative schedule comes before the year starts, so that the countries can make their calendar, they can nominate their representations, they can prepare their documents, and then they can have their papers ready. In order to have this presentations and our papers ready, we have a system called a shadow committee. For each working group, for each meeting, we have a parallelly committee which is called a shadow committee, which has members from different organizations, from DG Shipping, Coast Guard, sometimes Indian Navy, and other institutes, also from INSA, IRS. So they are the domain expertise. They have the knowledge of particular field or the meeting related issues. These are the topics, these are the reasons to have a shadow committee. These are the composition. For example, I have taken one for assembly, like there will be a representation from ministry, there will be a DGS nodal officers, members and different entities like Shipping Corporation of India, Cochin Shipyard, class and so on. This is for the MSCU, Maritime Safety Committee. These are in continuation to the shadow committee of the previous slide. Recommendations to have, as I discussed, as I explained, this is being discussed at the ministry level that other than the High Commission, we have to have a senior professional and junior professional at IMO, at least 2 each, but this is not yet finalized, but this is under process. We have one permanent domain specialist. These are the details like how and what level they will be engaged, SPO and JPO. JPO is a T2 level in IMO that will be related to substantive work while serving at IMO. IMO members sponsor the secondment of young professionals from their country. Similarly, we have a senior professional officers and so on. These are the delegations have represented our country at IMO level, and with this continuous, consistent approach, we could secure a position in category B, the largest seaborne nation of 40th member council. So this is we have received. This is being done. This could be achieved because of the consistent approach, because of the participation of all the entities. So we could do that. Any questions? Please.
Thank you, Manish. Just for everybody's verification, I'll come back to the submission. But just to say, the positioning of JPOs and SPOs, they will not be paid by the IMO, they have to be paid by the government concerned. And that, I think, runs into a problem in our country.
Yes, you're right.
We have the largest number from Korea, Turkey and China, which are serving in the IMO as JPOs and SPOs. Wow. Okay.
We'll have a questions now or later.
Along with the panel.
Yes,
I'll take it along with the panel.
So I request my next fellow panelist, please come.
Rajeev,
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rajeev and I think the sequence we are following is one of the key things, especially the younger generation at the back would be interested in hearing is what is happening to the training. So we will have my colleagues, Captain Philip and Captain Deboo talking specifically on STCW. While I have been part of the shadow committees and have been attending MSc and MEPC, so I'll just give a brief overview on what are the topics of interest which are undergoing at MSc and MEPC. And another thing which does happen is that after finishing a session, as an industry, we do try to disseminate the information. So MSc after 108 happened, on 13th of September, here only we had done a dissemination of information on what took place at MSc. And coming Monday in the afternoon at the same place, IMEI is arranging for MEPC 82 and the intersessional working group. So MEPC, I'll keep it a bit shorter because in detail it will be dealt on Monday itself. But MSc, I will just run through what are the key things going on which would be impacting, and I will be leaving the aspect of training out of it. So the major work which is happening at MSc right now is on the mass code, which is the autonomous ships which are under a development as a separate code. It is something for the future. I would say now not too far away. It will first come as a non-mandatory code. The scoping exercises have been done. And while initially it may not be fully unmanned, you would still have manning on board. The target at level 4 would be a fully unmanned vehicle, surface ship as well. So this is one of the major things happening. Right now, a scoping exercise where all it interferes with other conventions, etc., is also going on. Training of this has not yet been moved into HTW, though there is a gradual realization that at some stage it will require to come to the HTW subcommittee for considering this. But right now, HTW is focused on its own review of the convention and the code. The focus areas include safe navigation, collision avoidance, and remote control to uphold safety standards. Some of you who follow industry may also know that recently DNV gave an approval in principle for a chief engineer to work from remote. So technologies are evolving, automation is moving forward. One of the areas, a gap, if I can call it, is search and rescue. How would that happen in this? There are certain nationalities who are doing trials on this aggressively. India, in principle, supports any new technology, and that is the stand being taken. But safe integration into the existing framework and making sure that seafarers and shipping is safe from all aspects, and there is no sort of dilution and not ability to deal with things like search and rescue and support to seafarers in distress. So that is the general thing on mass. The next major thing happening is, this will of course be covered a bit more in detail in MEPC, but you have alternate fuels coming. The fossil fuels, there is a 2023 strategy to have net zero by 2050. That is there. That cannot be achieved purely by technical measures. Present fossil fuels, you would be moving on to ZNZ fuels, zero near zero fuels, which will involve low gaseous fuels, and that is one of the key things which is being looked at now by MSc as well, that what does it mean in terms of safety aspect. So The updates to the IGF code is one of the key areas being worked upon. This is also taking into account that you may have new technologies, things like carbon capture. You are seeing a lot of stress coming out on sails. I think very recently Japan has just moved a soft sail concept also. So it is not only fixed rigid rotor sails or something, soft sails, kites. A lot of these measures are also coming into, and it would be very important for the future seafarers to keep themselves abreast of this knowledge, because possibly some of these technologies you will see on board, and especially along with their issues, let's say when you're talking of battery, what does a battery fire involve? You might be reading in newspapers also that how fast a lithium temperatures rise, and that applies on ships when you're carrying these sort of vessels and roll-off ships. So, and you would have in future, let's say diesel electric with batteries inside. So all these aspects are being looked at MSc. From the safety aspect, pollution aspect goes into MEPC. India is supportive of that. India does see biofuels as a drop-in fuel, but going forward, green hydrogen, green ammonia are potentially the fuels being looked at. So those aspects in advance, let me put it this way, that while they will not be mature, you have to address the safety concerns right from now. Otherwise, you may have technologies overtaking and people exposed to risks which they have not been trained for. I think we are seeing the impact of all this. You have seen bomb hoax threats on all Indian airlines. I think we've lost count. It is a challenge. Just to share with you in a lighter vein, I was on a flight nearly 3.5 hours into the flight on Sunday, and we were asked to identify each and our bag because that flight had received a threat while we were in air. So it is not a pleasant experience to feel that, but all this is what technology we are having. You don't know where it is going to hit you. Fortunately, there are threats today, but these sort of cybersecurity issues, if not suitably dealt with, can lead to major issues for any transport system, humans, everything. So best practices are being worked on cybersecurity. Autonomous ships, you are on one side moving into mass, increased autonomy, that means more risk of this. So this is something we do try to keep abreast of, and recently we have CMMI and IMEI combined with IRS. I think we did a session on cybersecurity specifically, so that people on board are aware that even things like actis and all, how they could be vulnerable. And a lot of this is work in progress, and it is gaining a lot of attention at MSc. So this is something, and I'm sure when HTW presentations will be by Captain Philip and Captain Deboo, they will talk of what it is meaning for the seafarers. India, of course, will always support a robust cybersecurity network and accordingly the training. Of course, after the morning session from Captain Manish, I think I need not talk on piracy, on security, robbery. This is, yes, it comes under MSc, and obviously you have heard much more in detail than I can touch upon this subject right now. So, but this is also under the scope of MSc. This brings me to MEPC, the environmental aspect. There is already a strategy in place. 2050 net zero is now defined with 2030, 2040 targets. So there's a pathway and we have to achieve it. The unfortunate part is technology-wise alone, technical elements cannot help you reach this. This will require some details, which is why I've kept it as a specific topic to talk about. But generally, what does MEPC 82 today focus on? It follows the various reports on climate change, what is happening. We have a 1.5 degree target Paris, but what are the reports actually saying? Are we online? Are we not online? Are there tipping points which we are crossing, from which there may be no recovery? And accordingly, how does shipping take care of it? Incidentally, shipping is considered a hard to abate sector, and many times you will hear that it's only 3% of emissions from shipping. But I think the time has come for all of us where every bit will contribute. So energy efficiency of ships, from that point of view, cargo has to be carried. There is no way you can avoid burning fuel. There is no way you can avoid the moment you generate energy, warm up the planet more. How to make it more efficient is one of the key things. There has been a lot of focus in, now it's more or less coming to where we have stabilized a bit on ballast water, because while this ballast water management came into focus, there were a lot of gaps between the equipment performance and actual scenarios, especially when you are dealing with challenging water quality, is what we call it. So India has been quite active on this. We have worked a lot on trying to make your reporting system simpler, and therefore this has moved on. Marine litter, PSSA, emission control areas come here, and the new one which is coming up is now underwater noise. You will see this coming as another area which will get more traction in MEPC. Pollution prevention and response feeds into MEPC. Right now it is working largely on NX4, which is the sewage pollution. That is also under review. The last one, which is also equally important for India, is ship recycling. Hong Kong Convention is coming into force. The only issue we are facing is there is some issues with Basel Convention, and that is being looked at MEPC, how to coordinate it, so that the most recent Hong Kong Convention is the one which is applied, and if there is a contradiction with Basel, it takes care of it. Just a few words before I wind up on GHG emissions. This is the part which I was talking of, that alone technical elements are not going to be able to help us achieve the zero target of 2050. It will have to be coupled with some hand-holding to make sure migration of technology from fossil fuels to alternate fuels happens. So there is a likelihood that it will be a basket of measures which will include technical but also have an economic element to it. And in the last ISWG and MEPC, while there are primarily a view of having a levy on the fuel and another method of having a line if you are above or below, so you pay and you get a reward, various mechanisms. India is trying to work on a solution which bridges them. Hopefully we would be able to do that and take it to the next ISWG, which is scheduled for February of 2025. So ladies and gentlemen, this is from me on MSc and MEPC, and now I'll leave it for HTW. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajeev.
That's the technical.
Yeah.
Remedial unit, surplus unit.
Just one, this thing, not this thing, this market-based measures, you did say, yes, it is going to come in, but the size of the cloth is the same, whether you like it, you're going to pull it up or pull it down. So that means that's not a solution actually.
I totally agree with you, but just for information, if any of you have further interest in MEPC, please do come back on afternoon of Monday, where we have a debrief session on MEPC. RU is remedial unit, SU is surplus unit. So if you are better than the line, you generate a surplus unit, and if you are below, you have to buy the remedial unit. So you pay. GFI is Global Fuel Index.
This is basically being sold by the Europeans anyway. Philip, without much, can you get into it so that we have a little more time for discussions? Yes, Philip, go ahead.
Thank you Captain Mahapatra. Thank you CMMI for giving this opportunity. Well, I am in a panel of big experts here. I'll just skim through the proceedings at the Intersectional Working Group meeting. The first one for the coming up human element training and watchkeeping in February of 2025. This was a follow-up, and the approval was to hold this Intersectional Working Group meeting in HTW 10. Well, this is our delegates, a part of our delegates with the leader, Mr. Visel, in front of the bust of Father of the Nation spoken in the morning, Mahatma Gandhi. It was held at IMO London, 7th to 10th, 11th of October. Yeah, it was chaired by Kathleen Morrow from US. The structure of the review, aims of comprehensive review of STCW 79 Convention and Code. There are 4 aims which I will not go into details. There are principles of comprehensive review. You have to stick to these principles, the specific areas and the criterion for identifying the gap. There are 16, 23 and 2 and 3 actually, with various criteria in which this is held. Okay, how was India's preparation? Viksit, Bharat, Maritime India, Vision, everything together. The presence of India at IMO meetings helps champion the cause of safe and secure seas. We all know that. We have our philosophy of fair treatment to seafarers, environmental stewardship, ensuring maritime safety, security and sustainability. We are a quality manpower nation. Our aim under the Viksit Bharat and the Maritime India vision is to have 20% of our seafarers on all ships around the globe. To achieve this, we have held meetings with stakeholders from May of 2024. Totally at the ISWG, 51 papers were presented by all nations, out of which I can proudly say that India presented 9 papers. The process was various chapters were drawn into various groups. There were various meetings held up at DG Shipping and at various times between the individuals in each group, including going up to midnight. Well, the group developed papers. The papers were approved by DG Shipping and then they were presented. Then after that, what happened at ISWG at IMO in London? Papers were grouped according to the gaps, because 51 papers you cannot go individually through all of them. They were gapped into groups and in the order by the chair. As per the terms of reference, whatever was agreed to move forward, moved forward, but then No, they were to the next stage were in relation to the gap identified and not in relation to any proposed amendment or even in the manner proposed. It has just moved forward. There will be further discussions on that, narrowing down to discussions. The key outcomes of the submissions made by delegates. I will go fast because I know we are a little late. The ISWG regarding the articles, it was decided that the amendments to articles is a very cumbersome and long drawn process. If we wait for the articles, it is never going to happen. So therefore, it was said that any gaps identified in the articles would be addressed through the part B of the code or any other parts of the code as convenient. There was a request for the format of dispensation because various countries were issuing dispensations in different manner. So they agreed to take it forward and it would be addressed along with other consistencies through the codes. Chapter 1. This is the chapter which took the maximum time. In regulation 1/1 and its corresponding parts of the code, the committee agreed that the definitions and clarifications would be taken up finally. India presented a paper that the definitions were not in order, etc. This will all be taken up after all the amendments have been agreed upon, as any necessary changes in the definition in the STCW would be identified through an amendment process. Regulation 1/2 and its corresponding parts of the code. There was some problems in cross-referencing which will be addressed. Deletion of the requirement of medical certificate. There was a demand, especially from United States and somebody, that when you go for a certificate of competency, why should you have the medical certificate? Medical certificate, but it is a requirement under Article 6. So this was referred to the legal committee. They came out that it would not be proper since the articles are not going to be amended. But however, they will come out with some clarification. Of course, it would be necessary to have medical certificates for anybody sailing on a ship. But whether for any other purpose like working ashore or anything, whether a certificate can be issued, it was agreed to be taken up in the future. Regulation 1/3 and the corresponding parts of the code. For coastal waters, there was confusion in the European Union to get, an understanding between various countries for getting the bilateral agreement like we have in India, the BIMS. For that respect, they wanted some changes, but then it was said that this will be, it has to be addressed in relation to how to define the coastal water area. This should be addressed by bilateral agreements between the parties concerned, and included a process which went beyond the mandate of the convention, so they did not agree to include this specific proposal in the gap. Regulation 1/4, in relation to this proposal to add the familiarization of seafarers on board into the scope, some countries wanted to bring the familiarization of seafarers on board a ship under the port state control inspection. The proposal was not supported because this was addressed through the ISM code, and it is ISM code, of course, is applicable to ships of more than 500 GT. So this was not permitted to bring it under the ambit of the port state control. Regulation 1/7, 1/8 and 1/16 and corresponding parts of the code discuss the probability of, it was regarding the evaluation of the STC compliance as it is being done by various states coming to India, or like Philippines reported that there are 64 countries, coming and inspecting them. So there was a proposal to bring this under IMSAS, but then there is a 5-yearly cycle of STCW, 7-yearly cycle of IMSAS, and then it can create a lot of confusion unless the whole thing is changed. However, it was agreed that further consideration of revising this would be taken forward, but it has invited interested parties who are interested in this to submit documents at HTW level. Regulation 1/14, this is very controversial. This is coming proposal to give on-board training to seafarers and continually upskill and update the knowledge. This was not agreed upon, as it was said that it would increase the unnecessary workload on seafarers. This was taken up vigorously by my friend sitting here who was there, Mr. Sunil Kumar, but they could not accept it. EU proposal of moving guidance regarding the company's responsibilities. Companies they wanted to put companies' responsibility on many things. However, this faced strong opposition, especially from ICS. We had our Indian friend colleague there, Arvind Natarajan, but the committee agreed to move its proposal forward to address it in future. Regulation 2/1 and its corresponding parts of the code. The proposal, there was a proposal, this was also a proposal from the ICS, International Chamber of Shipping, to map the competency, that is, and I put another column 5, to each of the competencies, KUPs and other things would be matched against an instrument of IMO and ILO. Though it would give rise to complexities, it was agreed to be taken up further, move forward to HTW level. In relation to the discussion about simulation and seagoing surveys, there was a lot of discussion on simulation and all these things. So it was agreed that to take forward that only some advantages would be given at the operational level certificate of competency and to certificate of proficiency under chapter 5 and not to subsequent certification of revalidation or management level officers. So I hope you understand, but there has been a lot of discussion on this, why at operational level, why not at management level. As it is already said that this is not going to be final, it will be further taken up, it is only that it has moved forward. In relation to discussion on celestial navigation, which was a hot matter of debate in India itself, they have not agreed to that the KUP should not be downscaled, but it should be modernized. Like people brought out the topic of digital sextants and so many things, they are accepting that it can be modernized, but they have not told that you can remove it off completely. In relation to the discussion on there was a discussion on combining bridge resource management and leadership and team working skills. This cannot be done as they are for different purposes, though there are overlaps. And they agreed to take it up for further consideration, but then they also mentioned that engine resource management should also be taken on the same level. Then there was an inter-tango proposal regarding mentoring of junior officers, though having practical challenges and difficulties in demonstrating competence, was agreed that it will go forward. They also proposed that in today's scenario of jamming and spoofing and all that, the GNSS impacted environment, there should be some competence coming up in the tables. Regulation 2/2 and its corresponding parts of the code regarding, there was India's proposal regarding tonnage, that is, when you see that 2/2, there is for, there are two, one is for 500 and above and 500 to 3000. Both those places you see that there is no requirement for a chief officer to work on a ship of more than 3000 GT. So there was a proposal put up by India, but then it was an indispensable step for certificate. It was not agreed to move forward. Regulation 2/3, ICS proposal for a new competence for masters of less than 500 GT was debated for intentional requirements in the paragraph 1 and 2 of regulation 2/3. They said it is downscaling of standards, but then because of the large increase in this type of ships, 500 GT, at the moment it is that mentioned that for that there should be, master should be between 500 GT and 3000 GT. There is some confusion. Also they have agreed for that competency, but it has gone forward. Regulation 2/4, the proposal that every rating forming a part of the navigational watch in para 1 of regulation 4, that ratings who are unskilled, it is mentioned that ratings who are a part of the navigational watch other than trainees and those who are unskilled. If you are a part of the navigational watch, India argued that you cannot be unskilled. But somehow this was not agreed for moving forward. We were not able to convince them that there cannot be a rating on the watch who is unskilled. Either he has to have the watchkeeping certificate or he should be an AB's deck. Chapter 3 regarding engineering, I think it will be done, but it was agreed to move forward the networking, configuring IPs. Sunil Kumar ji is here, computer set up in table 3/1. In table 3/2, regarding especially after the recent incident, regarding blackout, necessary action and restoration of power to the main switchboard, either by manual or automatic needs, was added. The word software ke baad, it was to be rephrased including these terms. Chapter 4, in relation to the clarification on whether basic training requirement is required for obtaining GMDSS radio operator certificate. There is no requirement for a radio officer unless he is going out to sea to have the basic training certificates, but he can get his certificate from the wireless department or anybody. Then there was a paper put up on chapter 4 by the radio department at the DG shipping regarding the shipping of locating the devices, etc. from the SOLAS chapter 3 to chapter 4. All this has been accepted in toto and it has moved forward. Chapter 5, in relation to alternate methods of seagoing service requirements to be qualified for advanced training for oil tankers and liquefied gas operations, there was no support at the ISWG as it was felt that the proposal would downscale the existing requirements, especially the word was mentioned that serving it as a lower officer rank, that was somehow not accepted because they thought that it would be downscaling or something. The supernumerary rank is there. In relation to enhancement of emergency familiarization training, it was brought up by China, serving on ships operating in polar waters. The intersectional group felt that there is already in the polar code sufficient training and this did not go forward. The group agreed considering the documents of Argentina and Norway for additional training of all seafarers, not just deck officers, serving on board ships in polar waters, and they agreed for some additional training. Special training requirements, they did not agree regarding unusual maneuvering characteristics, which is done by all companies as a value-added course, and this was not accepted. Similarly, type rating was requested by India for high-speed crafts. This was not accepted. They said this training is for some regions and it is for specific ships and it is for only in that region. It cannot come into the comprehensive review. Regarding the proposal of US ICS in India for dynamic position operator for moving from part B of the code to part A, noting concerns of potential safety effects because of a strong paper presented by the Nautical Institute who is conducting this course for a long time. There was a lot of supporting documents put up by NI, but however it was agreed to be moved forward for further consideration of the safety effects. Chapter 6, in relation to the provisions of medical first aid and medical care, ISDG WG noted that guidance provided by other organizations especially for disease like COVID or anything similar, we cannot have any competence in our tables. This is for the World Health Organizations or similar bodies to come out and give it. This is beyond the scope of our Medicare system. The proposal of European Union for refreshing, which is recommended in the MLC, was agreed and the proposal is to be addressed in future. Chapter 7 and 8, due to constraint of time, it was not discussed, but the review of the suitability, there was a thing of review of suitability of non-maritime graduates, etc. having this. See, there was a focus on portability of seafarers there. Fishermen, Great Lake seafarers, not seafarers, I would not say they are seafarers, marine personnel there who are working on the Great Lake ships to move to the ambit of STCW. There were discussions and it was taken in a positive spirit because there was great concern over the shortage of seafarers. We had the crux of the matter was every topic was discussed because of the difficulty to attract seafarers into the profession and thereafter to retain them. So this 7 and 8 will be discussed later. Additional emphasis, addressing inconsistencies in different interpretations. Like the oil tanker chemical course, you know that we have to do the basic octo course is there for both, but after that to get endorsement, you have to do separately on chemical and oil tankers. So this proposal, they have agreed to take forward. Clarity for persons with immediate responsibility. Like like a second mate keeps independent watch. Some of the right ships or your SAR inspectors say that he is doing independent watch. You require a management level DC. For this, a clarification will come out, what is required. So at the moment, what we do in most of the companies, we get the management level DC for them also. Proposal to introduce new certification, I have already discussed this. It was regarding for this European Union short sea shipping routes that they are considering. Possibility to consolidate all ECDIS scores at operational level. There is also an agreement to modernize and migrate some of the competencies of management level officers to operational level as detailed in the proposal. Knowledge and management of deck maintenance repair. Who will monitor whether the AB knows? AB is doing the right thing. There is a proposal intended to introduce management oversight by deck officers. Competencies of electrotechnical officers in relation to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, Internet of Things, need to address these trainings. It was organized. Security related training. We have security related training in chapter 6. The three the three courses: awareness, DST, STD, and the security officers course. Cyber security and other things coming up. This will be included, and this will be considered as a requirement there. Now the main topic is chapter 2 and 6, violence, harassment. This is coming everywhere. Violence and harassment, including sexual harassment, bullying, and sexual assault. These are one of becoming the focus is shifting some way from our profession to this. But then this is a requirement. There is agreement to bring this in chapter 2 and chapter 3. Review of with a view to incorporate competencies and KOPs related to ballast water management, very important. There was an agreement that these issues should be addressed in chapter 2 and 3. 2 and 3 means deck officers, and the chapter 3 is engineers. Discussion on whether all levels of competencies were to be included. It was agreed that the specificities of the knowledge, understanding, and proficiency would be discussed at a later stage. Review with a view to incorporate competencies of emission control and energy efficiency has been already discussed by my colleague Rajeev. Mapping competencies, like I already explained this, IMO with other IMO instruments like IMO, ILO, and other bodies, each competence should be so that it becomes easy to remove them in case it becomes obsolete also. Incorporate standards on training for cyber security in chapter 6, already discussed. This should be included in tables of chapter 2, 3, and 4, and security courses of chapter 6. Training related to entry and working within the enclosed spaces. There is no such mandated training as of now, but this was agreed. There was an overwhelming agreement to include this in chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then regarding the medical guidance, you can now, there is a support. It was raised in HTW 10 also, that this will be taken up at the latest editions can be used. Considerable attention, I have told you that STCW fishing professionals, Great Lakes shipping experience personnel, and others through gap analysis in view of the shortage. Recruitment and retention was a burning issue there, which I mentioned. Considerable attention to the removal of obsolete competencies while introducing new technology. It was also mentioned that while introducing new technologies, we must remain within the requirements with competency required for the core profession. Mapping competencies with IMO and outcome of the high level. This is the last, and it will take me 1 minute. Regarding mass, lot of nations issued brought about so much of mass code regarding the remote control operator and all that. See, somehow this has to align. So what they did is they did not reject it, but they said that they will collect all the papers and present it to the HTW. There is a high-level committee working in HTW to make the non-mandatory mass code, which is coming out by May 2025, and the mandatory code is on 1st January 2032. So what is that? They are waiting for the direction of the MSc on how this subcommittee HTW will work forward. Then regarding the training provisions for ships using new technologies and alternate fuels, ISDG agreed to gather all the proposals for this using for the development of training requirements for new technologies and alternate fuels and forward them to HTW, because there is an agenda item on development of safety regulations, regulatory framework to support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships using new technologies. At the same time, you see in B, for reduction of GHG emissions not entailing the use of new technologies, it should be addressed in this comprehensive review of the STCW. Violence and harassment, it was agreed here that we will not include anything in the competencies because it is already agreed upon in the second ILO IMO joint tripartite working group, and they will not agree to any changes, nor it will be put in anything in the competence. Then the proposed, I had mentioned this already, that regarding the proposed amendments to regulation 1/4 regarding drug and policy, the responsibility on the companies, the strong opposition to the proposal. It was noted that merely a gap was identified at this stage. mental health, regarding there was mental health assessment, mental health, evaluate the mental health of the seafarers, and also psychological counseling. They wanted to put it into the competence requirement. This was totally disagreed. It was saying that this cannot be accepted. Regarding for competence for maritime piracy and any incident related to maritime threats and hostilities, ISDG reported that there are sufficient grounds under the industry standard BMP 5, BMP West Africa, and whatever is there. There is no further need for any competence to be brought out. Now, there was, for the perpetrators of violence and sexual harassment on ship, there was a proposal which I missed out to give them 5 penalties and not to take them back into the sea carrier. It was decided that this will be infringing upon national legislations and so could not be taken out. This is our photo. I am proud to mention here, this photo is very important. You will look at the UK delegation, you will look at the ICS delegation, all Indians along with the Indian delegation. And I am proud to say that today I have got 22 people, 26 people, 4 below the age of 60, that these boys who are all there are young master mariners, young chief engineers, and we want to encourage people and bring them to the forefront here. And I would like to see the next delegation from India having people of that age. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Philip. Kersi.
And I want to acknowledge the contribution, inputs, Captain Arvind Nitrajan, Senior Manager, ICS, Captain Shivnandan Albe is sitting here, he was there, he was more or less the leader of the delegation. And thank you so much. And the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in combat. What I stand for.
Thank you, Philip. Kersi, can you go ahead? Quickly, we need to have a
वंदे भारत के जैसे गए वंदे भारत एक्सप्रेस.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think Captain Mathews has covered most of the aspects of the ISWG. So I will give you a little bit of an overview on it because most of the topics have been already covered. Thank you. So now I have been in training for almost 29 years now. And I have continued to be in the education, maritime education and training field with the sole purpose that we need to bring up our Indian seafarers so that they are the most sought after in the world with all the ship owners. And we can see, I think, the upward trend. Captain Manish Kumar did show some statistics also, how the number of Indian seafarers working on ships, Indian and both foreign flag, have been growing steadily. And in one of the DG Shipping's presentation recently, I saw that it's reached 219,000 Indian seafarers. So that's a fantastic statistics that we are growing very well. And I'm very happy to see that yes, our maritime education and training in India has matured nicely, and it is looking forward to what is the future developments that are coming up. So my journey at IMO started in 2007, at the time when there was the 2010 amendments coming up. These comprehensive review and revisions take place generally every 15 years. So that was 1978, 1995, 2010, and now we are looking, it's slightly delayed, we will not look at it in 2025, but it will be around 2027 when it is expected with the new comprehensive amendments that will come out for the STCW. So when I was saying I started my journey in 2007, and that was also, I started with the first one being the ISWG, which I attended, because the intersessional working groups are usually held during this comprehensive amendment sessions, because you want to have this session much more frequently rather than once a year. The human element training and watchkeeping subcommittee only sits once a year, generally in the month of February of every year. So that's not good enough if you want to bring about a comprehensive revision within a quick period of time. And hence these ISWG meetings are held, frequently. So now we have held that one. Next HTW is coming up in February of 2025, and then we expect maybe one more or two more ISWGs within the 2025, so that we fast track the revisions requirement. So in 2007, when I was first attending at IMO, my mentor, Capt. Mahapatra, is sitting here, and really under his mentorship, I was able to spend now almost 17 years at IMO, and also later on chair drafting groups for IMO for model courses, validation and revisions. So thank you very much, sir, for all the mentorship that you have provided to me over the years. So 2010 amendments were, I think, quite a landmark. Lots of changes happened through the 1995 convention, and we are now seeing also that 2027, maybe when it will come out, would also have quite a few revisions, as were pointed out by Captain Mathews here, what we are looking at. So this revision is being done in two phases. One is firstly a review to find out what are the gaps currently in our STCW training system, and what is the new requirements that need to be also added in, which are not there currently at all in the convention. So these are the two areas that are focused upon, and that's why this ISWG was held. Now from the next HTW 11 subcommittee meeting, they will invite papers where the not only identification of gaps, but now with a comprehensive paper mentioning how that gap needs to be filled up. What are the new training requirements that need to be added in? So that's the aspect that we need to quickly work on in India, because the deadline is pretty close. As you see, when the February is the subcommittee meeting, the deadline of submission of papers, which we call as the bulk submission, that means pages more than 6 pages, we need to do by 8th of November. And then
13 weeks before the start of the
13 weeks before the start of the subcommittee session. And then up to 6 pages document would be by
9 weeks.
9 weeks, okay, correct. And then will be only comments that you can make on somebody else's paper, which is a 4-page document at the max, and that is 6 weeks before the subcommittee meeting starts. So time is very short, and I think we need to, as India, gear up to have quick meetings, and most welcome any suggestions from the seafarers, because as we saw, lots of changes, and you can see cyber security, alternate fuels training, the wind rotor system training, etc. So where do you see your workload going from here? So for that matter, also in this intersessional working group, it was mentioned that we will need to have a new output on tracking what is the workload going to be of the seafarer, and how can we take care of that? How can we reduce this workload? So most of the important decisions which are usually taken at IMO are done in a consultative and consensus basis, and hence the main words which are used is this revision really required? Is this impulsive need for carrying out this revision? So that's the first requirement. Second is flexibility. You cannot become too rigid, as you would have seen in the requirement for near coastal vessels. There was a lot of discussion on that, and it was mentioned that even in the code B, which is the recommendatory code, only one line is mentioned, that the near coastal vessel bilateral agreements need to be drawn up with the countries with which you would like to trade with. And we would like to keep this flexible. We do not want to add too much of rigidity in that. And that's the reason most of the decisions are taken that if it is flexible, then it is better. Otherwise, they do not want to bring in too much rigidity. So that was one of the other key factors. The other one was inconsistencies. So the inconsistencies between chapters, that is cross-referencing. So there is something written in chapter 1 regulation, but it is impacting maybe chapter 5 also. So there is something which is not matching properly. So we need to remove these inconsistencies through proper cross-referencing. And the mass vessels, I think, was also mentioned quite a bit. Mr. Nair mentioned that for at least this particular review and revision, we may not consider the mass code and the requirements of mass right now. Maybe it will be left to the future. So usually, yes, between the 15 years period also, when comprehensive revision takes place, also there are small iterations which take place. You would have seen the chapter 5/3, which is dealing with the IGF code training, which came in between in 2016. Yeah? Then we had chapter 5/4, which was for polar code training, basic and advanced. So like that, new training requirements will keep coming out. One thing which was mentioned in this particular review requirement was that about the alternate fuels. They said alternate fuels are coming out very quickly. We are having LNG fuel vessels already running, methanol fuel vessels already running. Ammonia is slated to come in the 3rd or 4th quarter of 2025. Hydrogen will also come maybe in 27. So all these are the various alternate fuels which will come much before the comprehensive review and the revision will come out actually in 27, etc. So that's the reason this area has been fast-tracked, and they want the new training requirements under 5/3, which will come out much more earlier for the IGF fuel training, not wait for 27. So I think with this few words I will stop, because we have already run a little bit out of schedule, and we would like your questions to come up to us. So I'll hand over to Dr. Mahapatra.
Thank you, Kersi. I'd like the panel to come up to the stage. Just to let you know, Kersi mentioned about the submissions. It may sound bureaucratic, 13 weeks, 9 weeks. You have to remember one thing. I think your youngsters should know how the IMO works. The IMO works in 6 working languages. So any person can submit in any language and it has to be translated. And we required that time for translation. Okay. Before we start off, I have a question for this. Can anybody give me
Mike.
Okay. Can anybody give me a very short answer? How do you think the IMO works? Before we start off, what India's position should be? Consensus. How does it work on its? What is IMO? That's a fundamental question. What is IMO?
Integrity.
Pardon, somebody said something?
On consultations.
Who is the IMO? Let me rephrase it.
It's under the umbrella of UN.
Yes, UN, but who, again, then I'll take up to the next question. Who is UN?
Member states.
Okay. Now you've got that as member states. That is a clear distinction that has to be remembered. The Secretariat is not the IMO, neither is the UN. The Secretariat is there to facilitate. Having said that, now when you look at your own perception from the IMO, when you are all dealing with it, we are a major maritime state. It may not be in number of ships, but definitely with seaborne trade we are up and coming, and we should be coming very high on the list. What is our participation? I think, Manish, you said something about having a permanent rep sitting at the High Commission. Let me tell you, we did have at one stage. Captain Barve was the first one, then Mr. Padalkar was there, then another engineer ship surveyor was there. No, I forget his name. And then when it had come up, it so happened that the Joint Secretary had chosen me to go there at that time. But it clashed with the rank that was being given and me being promoted to Deputy NA. So that somehow or the other it got lost before they come. And then the minister's PS wanted to go as an IS officer sitting in that place, so that he kept the file aside for 4 years, and then Ministry of External Affairs was never happy with having somebody other than an IFS officer there. So it lay low and the post lapsed as per the government. Definitely it is required, but what is more important in the IMO, what is to understand how it works. It works as a community where you build up consensus and agree. Till today, IMO has not adopted anything based on a voting procedure. And that is why the ratifications to all the major conventions is well beyond 99.5%. Quite a SOLAS, MARPOL, STCW are 99.98%. So that is because we have all agreed on it. Why have we agreed on it? Is because shipping is an international trade and it has to have common laws which the business can follow. You can imagine the confusion that would happen if one had to comply with one law here and another law there. Trade wouldn't move, economy wouldn't move. So with that in mind, it is always, then how does that consensus come in? It is based on discussions and the trust. And how does that trust come? Trust comes from people providing that continuity. If you look at some of the major players within the IMO, you've got people who are attending the same meeting for 20, 30 years. You see that same face leading the delegation. Whereas what happens in our case, most of the time, till Friday evening, prior to the meeting, you don't know who is going. So how does one prepare? Because let's be honest, you cannot go there unprepared. And why will you prepare yourself if you are not sure of yourself? And this is not a today's affair. This is means going on even when I was in DG in 1986. People get it. So what is the disconnect between the DG's office and the ministry, where ministry thinks that going for a meeting is a gallivanting foreign trip. Unfortunately, they should come and sit down in one of the meetings when the working groups, at least in the revision time, has worked till well past midnight. There was one working group during the time when I did the 2010 revision. We finished at 3:30 in the morning. And then we were back on the table at 9:30 in the morning. So this is not something which, so there has to be a appreciation within the bureaucracy that yes, we definitely need to be projected in the IMO. So how do you do it? You have to build that continuity, you have to build that trust. And that is what I would like you all to take it across to the administrators. I mean, I am no longer a voice that can talk to the administrators. I'm not opposed, definitely. But when it should be and not be is two different things. Anyway.
You are the most experienced.
No, I didn't want to bring it up, Philip. Anyway, you bring it up, and that is what we need, a continuous attendance at the IMO. You need to bring it up that we need to have the same people continually in the IMO. And you know, we had in the Japanese delegation, everybody must be knowing Sasamura. Even after he retired, the government of Japan used to send him there. Because when he sits over there and if he opens his mouth, we used to, everybody listen to him. Why? Because he had that depth of knowledge, he had the trust of everybody. Of course, there is a bit of a joke we used to say, if we want to get anything through Sasamura, we would take it, the secretariat would put it between 245 and 315 because that's the time he sits and snoozes in the but that's jokes aside, but he was a person. So having said that, this is what I would like India to do. Yes, participate, yes, do it, yet at the same time, when unfortunately a lot of things come out in the WhatsApp group without people really understanding the procedure. And Manish just gave a thing about how the IMO meetings are scheduled. IMO meetings are scheduled 1 year in advance. They are published. The agenda for the next meeting is always agreed upon at the last meeting. You cannot add anything to the next meeting. If you have to add something, you have to put up a proposal to the Maritime Safety Committee, giving justification, need, cost-benefit analysis, and everything. It is not that simple. You just say that we need to put a concept paper and all, that principle doesn't work. I mean, so I know, I think people understand whom I'm talking about, but this is how it is. And having said that, if there are questions, Philip wanted to make a point, and then
I want to say something small. It's a big thing today, which happened in 2016, precisely around May 18th or so. MSc 97 was there. I was sent as an INSA representative. There were it was regarding the approvals for permission. You know, myself was there, and CMMI had sent Captain Anand Shingatgiri. He could not come through the official delegation. He came through the Nautical Institute. And there was Captain Uppal, he is not here at the moment, he is there. Captain Uppal was there, then an ISRO representative, and somebody else was there from IRS. Only I could make it, and Captain Anand Shingatgiri. And at 9:30 in the morning, Captain Mahapatra tells me that at 10:20, India has to introduce the paper on IRNSS. Okay. Now what the hell is Indian Regional Satellite System? I have no clue about all these things because it was to be presented by ISRO. When Mr. Hanumantayya was supposed to come there, Captain Uppal came, I think, on Tuesday and Hanumantayya came on Wednesday. But Captain Mahapatra came to me, he told me just what it is along with the paper. Imagine he is conducting that meeting at MSc, which is the topmost board committee of the IMO. He came to me and we made something and I had to blurt it out at 10:20 without understanding what I am reading on. Really I am telling you, this is what happened. But today it is a reality. Our thing is recognized. Gagan or whatever it is called by name now, IRNS has gone through that 4-yearly cycle or everything, and this was the commitment of the man, I must say that. And today, for all of you, one thing I want to say, all IMO things are come on public domain. So all the youngsters sitting behind and everything, please go there, it is available now. For transparency's sake, everything is coming into public domain. Whatever they can do, they are doing.
And if anybody wants to read any of the documents, you can register yourself as a public person. Only the ones which are not yet in discussion will not be disclosed to you. Whatever has been discussed and is available to the public. Any questions? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a very interesting session which we have been having since morning. And Rajeev and I said about incredible India and then inevitable India. And with such initiatives like Viksit Bharat and CMMI taking these sort of initiatives, I don't think it is imminent, but it is definitely not impossible that we'll reach there. My question is with respect to mass and to be specific about one particular topic, there could be many, but with respect to mass, since we are talking about so many things which are going up on IMO, and if we are talking about Viksit Bharat, and we got the number of our seafarers are increasing by the day, like what figures we have been seeing. So we should be on a head start with respect to training our officers on mass right from level 1 to level 4 of mass. So should we only wait for IMO, which definitely we should cater to, look at, but from our own Indian perspective, shouldn't we be one step ahead for that, and what can be done in that respect? Thank you.
I think I should answer that because the discussions on mass started during my tenure. And actually, the IMO delegates were very reluctant to address this issue. It started with that. It just so happened that there was a seminar which I attended in Southampton where I met Rolls-Royce, who was already doing some trials. And I said, and the trials seemed quite kosher, so I said, why don't you bring it to IMO, because definitely the regulators need to know, because immediately my mind started thinking that you're not, because they were operating totally unmanned ships. And I said, then you are going to operate a vessel in UK waters with somebody sitting in China or Philippines, and what kind of legal complications will it have? And then, so you need to answer that. So then I had a talk with the MCA on this, and we got this onto the discussions onto the table, which was totally opposed. In fact, ITF went and complained against me to the Secretary General that how did he accept this kind of a document. Then I explained, I said, you are coming into the same kind of a situation where in the mid-1850s, there was a transition from sailing ships to power-driven vessels. And that, I mean, so I gave a similarity onto this thing. I said, there also they faced the same kind of, but there it was far less complex because there was only one regulation, one set of regulation to be changed. That means that was the coal tax. And that took, believe me, 45 years, and there were only two countries in discussions on it, the US and the UK. I said, here it is so complicated, you need to, I said, you may agree, may not agree, but you need to have that discussion. So that is how it came into that. Well, definitely, I do agree that we need to, but here there has to be a discussion with the administrators as the regulators, with the technology industry, that means basically the IT provider. Because basically the entire thing is an IT solution. So that discussion needs to be opened. And if our people are going to actually participate in IMO on the regulatory basis, they need to understand from the technology providers. So it is good, it is actually time for the administration to open a discussion between the technology providers and the regulators. I think that is the need of the hour. I mean, when we, just to the IRNSS, when this was, means it did not come in here, and in fact, I must tell you that paper incidentally was, the paper which you introduced, Philip, was drafted by me and given to DG.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is to you, Capt. Mahapatra. You have spent so much time there at IMO and you've seen how we function here. You know the bureaucracy also here. How do you see that from, say, 1980s till now, how our representation in IMO has changed and how do you see the future in the next 10, 15 years?
You want an honest answer?
Yes, yes.
I see no change.
My goodness.
See, that time also when I went to MSc in 1992, my permission came on Friday evening at 6:30 for a meeting to be starting on Monday morning. I didn't have a ticket, nothing. Today also when these people went for ISWG, the same thing happened. If you are not sure, where is the change? They are doing the shadow committees and everything, but where is the incentive for them, for the people to be prepared? Because they are putting in their efforts. If they are not sure of going, means one of the suggestions that was given, you know the IMO timetable 1 year in advance. You know the agenda. Why can't the ministry give a blanket approval at the beginning of the year, financial year, that for this meeting, because all you need is the name of the government delegation to be there, correct? The rest can be added. You can say one from INSA, one from this thing. That can be very generic. But why can't that be done? Why does it have to be a specific? For every meeting, do you have to give? Because after all, it comes from the same budget line. Correct? The flight and everything comes from the same budget line. So why does it have to meet? Means you are talking of 7 plus 3 plus 3, 7 plus 2 plus 2, about 15 meetings. Instead of moving 15 files, if you move it on one file, aren't you doing the government's efficiency, updating it, rather than moving 15 files for a similar thing? That's why I'm saying I have not seen a change. If they have done it, so, Sanat, am I correct?
The last question.
Yeah. Pardon?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, he wants to ask. I will not comment on the government process, but yes, what change has happened is with the shadow committees becoming structured, a lot more focused work has happened and a lot more submissions have started going in. But the government part, that I will not, I'll refrain from.
Yes, the shadow committees and all. See, where I commented on the shadow committee is that unless they are sure that they are going to participate, how do you expect them to prepare? That is my question. I am not saying that they are not doing work. I am not saying that they are not identifying the thing. They are not writing the papers. That is there.
Can I?
Yeah.
Mine is not a
question actually. It is like part of the conclusion of the Viksit Bharat. Our Prime Minister Modi has got this very good project, Viksit Bharat. But earlier he had a project called Bullet Train, which Maharashtra government changed and suddenly it was stopped. I hope this becomes unstoppable. We'll have to figure out how to make it unstoppable so that we can achieve those targets, the ambitious targets of 2029 and 2047 and so on. Without that being unstoppable, I don't think we can achieve that.
I will tell you one thing, which I'm very passionate about. Irrespective of which government comes in or irrespective of what happens, the India story will roll. I'll tell you the reason also for it. The reason for it is, if you look back into history, every 300-400 years, you have a change of the global world power. And within that global world power, every century there is a turnover of the dominating powers. You had Europe and America dominating for a century and you are seeing them decline. Similarly, like Rajeev had said, that when we got colonized, we were the rising powers along with China. So this cycle is there. It will happen. Nobody can remain permanently at the top. So no matter what happens, it is the time for us, for this side of the globe, to rise, and no matter what happens, we will still rise.
Let's hope for that.
Thank you, sir. Last, just a little observation. The gentlemen on the dais have given you the very fair account of what happens at IMO. But I want to give you the masala. It is not so straightforward as it looks. They are all nice people, they told you nice things. But it is a nice place, but it is a diplomatic conference. So you cannot just stand up and start asking questions and all that. There is a very serious protocol of what you have to do and how you have to do it. Secondly, you are given a very little time to intervene and state your, if any question is asked, you are given very little time to explain. So you must know exactly what you are going to say and not beat around the bush. That's very, very critical. Thirdly, not everybody who attends knows everything. There was Captain Philip will testify, they all know that some of the remarks that have come out in the final document are incorrect, actually. They are incorrect. The references are incorrect. We have pointed that out, and I know we will be taking it up in SCW 11, etc., etc. So everybody is not a genius who goes there from other countries. From India, they are all geniuses. So other one is, of course, one item that was, there was this issue of we are adding everything to the training part, which is true. There were efforts to remove, which did not go through. When I approached ITF and said, why are you not agreeable to so and so thing? They said, you must increase manning. Of course we must increase manning. But if you remember, among the various criteria that were given, SMT was not to be touched. It was very clearly said that safe manning document, you will not talk about it. So there are very clear guidelines also as to what is to be done. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the unfortunate part of it is the document is not a STCW document, it's a SOLAS Chapter 5 document. Anyway, but just to, with a tongue in a cheek, you will understand he said about diplomacy, yes, a lot of work is done during the coffee break and at the smoker's corner. Believe me, when I did 2010, the amount of agreement I could get in that corner is unbelievable. And in fact, in 1995, the entire Chapter 7 was agreed upon in the pub behind the
Would just like to supplement what the Captain Mahapatra has said. On the sidelines of these meetings, we have a bilateral, engagement. Like when some seafarers are detained and the vessel is detained, so their representatives are there. Like for example, we had an issue with the vessel MT Ashi in Indonesia. So our delegations, that includes our DG sir, got an opportunity to talk to DG Indonesia. Then we had engaged on a virtual communication after the meeting. So it's not only the IMO meetings per se. There are many options we get on a sidelines also, as Captain Mahapatra and others have mentioned. So it is an opportunity to engage on a different agenda outside the meeting agenda points. So where we develop our connections at national level. So that definitely helps when our ships are going there or our seafarers are getting placed there. So all these things happens off the meeting time.
Thank you, Manish. I mean, just before I wind up, this is just to tell why I say trust and continuity. When you keep meeting the people over and over again, they may not be able to handle that situation, but because they trust you, they will take it to the right person and discuss it. Anyway, thank you very much. I think we have done for the day. And of course, anybody has any questions, CMMI has my contact details, can ask me. Thank you.
Good evening again. It's time to sum up. May I invite our master and the deputy master, Captain Basin and Captain Mohan, please come on the desk. So you have to do a pleasant task of handing over the trophies. And since we have more people here, may I invite Captain Halbe, Captain Shiv Halbe, please. And who else? Captain Uppal, can you please come on the desk? Okay, so to begin with, we'll go by the sequence. The first one to get the trophy is Captain Manish Kumar. So may I request Master, Captain Viksit, please hand over the trophy. Captain Philip Mathews, may I request our Deputy Master to hand over the trophy. Then we have Mr. Rajeev. So, Captain Halbe, can you please do the grateful? Thank you. Captain Kersi, Deboo. Sir. And I will hand over to Captain Mahapatra. Thank you.
We
It's on. It's on.
बंद करना ही चालू स्लाइड है स्लाइड चालू हाँ पॉइंटर घ्या चालू
Very well organized and always a guest.